Hi guys. I'm gonna make this just a little bit lower. I know this isn't very professional for a live video here. Okay, I'm gonna just put this just a little lower. Okay, in today's live video, I wanted to talk about blanketing for the wintertime, fall and wintertime. And I made a video last year. When I get back inside, I'll put the link up above so you can watch that one too. But there was a discussion on Facebook about this, and I just wanted to do a live video on it. Since I've been doing live videos, I wanted to do that in case there was anybody on here that had any questions. And I'm just going to talk about how I do it and what I've learned over the last 13 years of blanketing. And this is Reno, Nevada. So we have a dry climate. It's pretty dry. It does get cold during the wintertime. This time of year, I've already started to blanket, and I hope that's not too loud. I have started to blanket, and sorry about that. Yeah, last night was the coldest it's been so far. It was 28, so it's that time. And it hasn't been cold enough lately to do a regular, midweight to heavyweight blanket, but it has been cold enough at night. Usually like in the 30s, it's been 30s, sometimes even low 40s. And last week we got some wetness. We got some rain, and during the nighttime, you know, I like to make sure that they have protection too. Most of them use their houses, but just to be protected. So I've been using a lightweight blanket, and I forget the brand of this one, but this is a 100-gram blanket. So it provides a little bit of warmth, and it's 420 denier. And the 420 is the outer shell, and that means the thickness. So the higher the denier, the thicker this outer shell is, so it provides more protection from wetness and the wind. So 420 denier is not really waterproof or water. It might be water resistant to a certain degree, but if they're standing out in the rain, it's going to soak through pretty soon. And if it soaks through, then they're going to get wet too. So 100 gram has been perfect for this time of year. You know, getting like nighttime when I put them on, it's been like 50s, you know, even higher 50s. But once the sun goes down, that's when I usually wait to put them on to make sure they're not going to get too hot. And with the wetness, I was using the 100 with a 600 denier sheet on top. So the 600 denier is probably the lowest that you want to go to make sure that they're going to be protected from the wetness. So this is waterproof, water resistant. So this was good until we started to get the wetness and the rain. Then I added this on top. So that just makes sure that it adds a little bit more warmth too, but this over top of this, they're not going to get wet. This is going to repel the water. So today, I took them off around 50 degrees probably. It was still a little bit chilly, so I left them on a little bit longer. I had today off, so they were still good underneath. And pretty soon it's going to be cold enough to use this. This is a 240 gram blanket. This is I have others that are 250, and they're 600 denier, and those are usually perfect for our winter times here. But you know, I was thinking there's like different ways that you can blanket them. You can layer depending on the temperature, and you know, I was commenting on the Facebook post, and it kind of sounds complicated, but it's really not, because if you think of yourself, you know, how you would layer and how you would do different things depending on the weather. So you can't go specifically by just the temperature, because some temperatures feel different than others. So example, here it can be 35 for a high during the day with snow on the ground, and if the sun's out and there's no breeze, I might take the blankets off for that day. Now you get a 35-degree day where that's the high and there's snow on the ground, and then it's overcast and there's a breeze. It's going to be colder, so you might want to leave them on. But you would kind of do the same thing with yourself. You know, pay attention to how the weather feels. Anytime there's like rain or dampness in the ground, it's going to make it colder too, especially overnight. You know, those mornings, like if we've gotten rain and the ground's wet, the next morning it's going to be colder. Temperature-wise might not be a lot different, but when you walk out in it, it's crisper. It's like, feels colder. So, yeah, if you just kind of use that as your gauge, like today is like the sun's out, there's no breeze, it's actually kind of hot. It's, I don't know, it's probably about 60 degrees. Now, if we get a day here that's 60 degrees, it's overcast and there's breeze, it can feel cold. You know, so on that type of day, like today, I took all their blankets off. It's good. On a day that it's overcast and there's a breeze, same temperature, you know, I might have just a sheet on them just because that will protect them a little bit. Most of the time they get in their houses or stalls. I call them houses. Most of the time they use those, but every once in a while they want to stand out in it, and that's okay. You know, a lot of times they might do that because, you know, they want to cool off a little bit and they want to feel the breeze. But if there's wetness, like if it's one of those days, 60 degrees, there's a little bit of a breeze, it feels a little chillier, I'll go ahead and put a sheet on just to make sure that their coats don't get wet. My mom's horse hates the sound of rain hitting the tin roof, so he'll stand out in it, even if it's colder. So my gelding has done, this guy here, Chansey, he has done that before too. Almost everybody else will use my Appy, he does that too. But my mare and Mousy, they'll use their houses. If it's too windy or if it's raining, they get in their houses. So it just kind of depends on your horse, its habits, what they tend to do, their coats, and sometimes their age. Their age will make a difference too, because horses that are older sometimes can't take the coldness. So there's a lot of different factors, and it seems kind of complicating like when you start to say it, but if you really just put yourself in that position, you know, in your horse's position, you can learn how to layer. So another example that I put in my video for blanketing last year was I talked a lot about, because I think it was later in the season, I talked about the thicker blanket. So it's like, I don't know if this is considered like a mid-weight or mid to heavyweight. This one is 240 gram fill, 600 denier. This is the main one during the wintertime that I use, gram-wise and denier-wise. That's my main one. And colder days, when it starts to get colder in the season, I'll layer with the lighter blanket. So this is 100 gram. I'll put this underneath because this isn't water resistant. I'll put this underneath and put this on top. So then in the mornings, you know, if it's that time of year where it's too cold to take both blankets off, you just take the top blanket off. And you leave this on during the day as long as it's not snowing. If it's snowing, you would add this on top too, because this is a 420 denier. 'Cause I just noticed there's like a new person here. So this is a 420 denier, which is not really waterproof. So anytime I use these and it's wet, whether it's raining or snowing, I put this on top. This is just a sheet. It has no fill. and it's 600 denier. So this is waterproof and will protect from the wetness if they're out in it. It does add a little bit more warmth too. If it's not that cold, but you feel like they need a little bit more than just this, you can put the sheet underneath this. This doesn't need to be on top. Put it underneath this because, again, when you get up the next morning and you have to go to work and you know it's going to be a little bit warmer, but you want them to have a little bit of protection, all you have to do when you feed is just take this off and then they still have their sheet. Or if you know it's going to be rainy or snowy and you want them to have a little bit more than not having anything on, you better leave this alone. Then that's why I layer with either this underneath or this underneath on the colder days. And then my main 250 or 240 gram blanket goes on top. And so this time of year, it's not quite ready. We're not ready for this right here. So like I said, this is what I've been using. Another option is this right here. This is just a sheet, but it's a 1200 denier. And I was using that on my youngest just to get some protection. But 1200 denier isn't as breathable as like one of these 420 or 600. So it was starting to get chillier. I only have a couple of these. So the 1200 denier was enough to protect him from the wind, rain, and even add a little bit of warmth, because I think it kind of locks in some of the warmth more so than just like a 600 denier sheet. So yeah, this kept him warm. This was enough. So this is another option too. It just depends on where you live too. You know, we get pretty cold here, but we don't really go below 0 that many days. We have maybe like a handful of 0 days, and then we might go below. I think the most I've ever seen below is like 7 or 10 degrees below. So those are the days where I would layer this underneath this, and then adjust in the morning depending on what it felt like. You know, sometimes you can take this off and just leave this, and other times it's still pretty cold, so you just take this off underneath and just keep this on. So yeah, it just depends, but it's just kind of how you would do yourself. You know, different days are different, and the dampness makes a difference, and the temperature, if the sun's out, if it's overcast, if there's wind. You know, the wind always makes it feel chillier, so they're going to need a little bit more. Just like you, if you were out in the wind. I have my jacket over here. Like I came out in my sweatshirt here, and I had to take it off because I got warm. And that's how I've learned this about the horses too, is that trying different things, and different times during the day or nighttime, I might come out and feel underneath their blanket. Like I always feel like by their shoulder here, and then I'll feel from behind like on their rumps to see if they're sweating and see how they feel. And it's kind of helped me to just learn what they can take and what they like, and if they get too hot or if they need more. So anyway, I just wanted to make a quick little video on how to blanket, or how I blanket anyway. You know, if you get colder temperatures, you might need more than that. And another thing I wanted to talk about too is, you know, just because you blanket, you know, like all of my horses grow coats. Like this boy behind me, he probably gets the longest. So, you know, I have to watch him getting too hot sometimes if I blanket too soon. But, you know, during the day, like last night it was and I was off today, like I said, so I could like wait a little bit longer to take the blankets off. But if I had to go to work and say it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, it still was cold. And as long as it's dry, like today, if the sun's out, if it's a dry day and there's no wind, you can go ahead and take their blankets off, even though the temperature is like 28, because their hair will just fluff up and keep them warm. Plus, I'm always feeding them in the morning when I'm taking their blankets off, and the food helps them to kind of heat up too. Once they start to eat, they heat up from that too. So, yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I can think of for right now. So, yeah, I think that's it. Okay, well, check out my 2 lives I did yesterday. I did one on two-piece, sorry about that. So I did one live yesterday on 2-piece versus 3-piece bits, and also on some books that I'm reading. And I have 2 writing videos before that too. So if you guys haven't seen those, maybe go check those out, and I'll see you in another video, okay? Oh, somebody else just popped on. Do you want to say hi? Hello, say hi. I was just getting ready to leave. Okay. I'll wait just a couple more seconds. Okay, yeah, I was just talking about blanketing, and I've seen like a couple people pop on and off, and I don't know if you're one that was watching before, but I was talking about blanketing. To blanket or not to blanket? That is the question. And what do you guys do? Do you guys blanket? And if so, how do you do it? What kind of denier blankets do you use too if you blanket? Do you use 600 denier, 1200 denier? And I think they even have higher. I think they have 1600 or something like that, 1800, I'm not sure. And my main one is 250 grams, my main one that I use for winter time. And then I layer with underneath with a lighter blanket and sheets too sometimes. But I know there's grams of fill out there that are like 400 and maybe even higher than 400. But I usually just use 250 and then layer with like 100 gram underneath to make it, 350 grams. That's on the colder days. But here it's just, we don't get super harsh winters. We get chilly. During the day, like a high might be 30s. I don't know if it gets maybe even a little bit lower than that. It just depends. Not very many days like that though. So here I've learned to layer, with different things depending on if we have temperature drops or whatever. We only have probably, you could count on maybe 2 hands, like 0 degree days, and probably the same for below 0. I think the most I've ever seen was like 7 below or maybe 10 below, maybe 12 below, I'm not sure. But that's about it. And only just like a handful of days. So anything other than that, it's like we're above 0 during the, nighttime. During the day, highs during the day, average is probably like 20s, 30s. So here it's good to layer just because of that. If you're in harsher climates and like more humid climates. Oh, hi. How are you? You made one. You made a live. But if you're in harsher climates, where you have more humidity, it's going to be colder, and you might not need to blanket. I mean, to layer. Yeah, just our temperature change from nighttime to morning sometimes can be 50 degrees or more. So depending on what the low is for the nighttime, if the high for the day is up a little bit higher, sometimes you can't keep on just the regular heavier gram blanket. You have to, downsize to a lower gram. So, yeah, does anybody have any questions? Does anybody blanket? Anybody here blanket, or do you not blanket? The Facebook conversation that I was just telling you guys about was, yeah, somebody was asking opinions about blankets, and yeah, everybody started putting their 2 cents in, and it's like you always have that battle of the people that don't believe in blanketing at all. And sorry about that. That's Facebook people, I think, commenting. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you were feeling better. I hope you are. But yeah, that's always a debate, and it's just a matter of opinion, what you like to do, what you do with your horses where you live, and yeah, your belief. Horses are very adaptive. They can adapt to the weather and the coldness. If it gets cold, the only problem I see is like if their coats get wet, and they get so wet and they get damp, and then they can't get warm. And that was like what somebody had like commented, that, well, that they shiver to get warm. But it's like, I don't want my horses to have to shiver to get warm. I rather just keep them in a blanket so they're more comfortable. They don't have to do that. Plus, I like to show or be ready to show. I think they shed out faster too when you blanket them. Their hairs don't get quite as long. Mine do get coats because I wait until they start to grow their coats so they have a little bit of coat, so they're not totally slick. And then I start blanketing, putting their blankets on. Like I said, I've already been doing it for probably about 3 weeks or so. And usually once it starts to, the lows at night, once they start to get into the 30s, even like 35-ish, 39-ish. And even if it's a night to where, it's going to be windy the next day or whatever, even in the 40s, I start to blanket or use sheets. Sheets will be the first thing that I do, especially if it's windy, then it just protects them from the wind. So anyway, is that you, Karen, still here? I have just one person left. I was going to stop it like 2 times before. Okay, well, maybe it's somebody else. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, now a second person's back. Okay. All right, well, anybody want to say hi? I know this is like the middle of the day too, so I might try to do a live on this again later in the day where there might be some more people. If there's anybody that has questions about blanketing, and I know 13 years ago, having my horse, a first horse as an adult in Nevada, I grew up in Florida where I never even remember using blankets. It's like you do get some cold days there, but I don't ever really remember having to use blankets. So when being in Nevada, when I got my first horse as an adult here, I had to learn all this stuff. And I kind of like laugh at myself now because when my Appy was my first horse 13 years ago, and he came from Florida in June. I think it was June 20th. He got here, and June is supposed to be warm here. July and August are usually our hottest months here. In June, he got here about midnight, and it was cold. I was surprised how cold it was, and I wasn't expecting that. And you know, their hairs in Florida are like super, super short. So he was chilly, and you know, I was like surprised. So anyway, I got online and thought, well, I got to get him a blanket. Knowing nothing about blankets, I got him a fleece blanket, thinking, oh, that'll be nice and cozy, you know, because fleece is nice and cozy and warm. So that's what I got him. And yeah, I remember having it, and it snowed, and I'm like thinking, well, that's not very good if it snows. And yeah, then one of his next blankets, I forgot what I got him, but yeah, I went through this process of like getting different blankets and trying them. I think the next one I got, it wasn't like a very thick denier, you know, because I was trying to save money, you know, because the higher the denier and the higher the fill, the more they're going to be. So I forget, I think the fill was pretty good, but the outer shell, the denier, the thickness was probably like a 420, and he would get wet. It would just seep right through, you know, to his hairs and body, and he'd get wet. But it had a belly strap, a belly band to keep his belly warm. But I learned from that one that, okay, so this doesn't work. So through the years, it's like I've learned all about the different thicknesses of the outer shell, the different fill of the blankets, using sheets to line underneath or sheets to line on top of something like this. Yeah, and now it's like, yeah, you can mix and match when you have different things. So it's like, I would suggest if you live like in a climate that's colder, have one sheet, one lighter blanket, and then a mid-weight blanket. All at least 600 denier. Unless you have something like this and you can put a sheet over, then you can have like a lighter. This would probably be more like a stable blanket, like if they're going to be kept in a barn, you know, because they don't need the waterproofness in a barn, but you still have the 100-gram fill to keep them warm. So yeah, this combination is great because, like I said, if it does rain, you just put this 600 denier over top. So 600 denier sheet, 100-gram blanket, 420 denier, 600 denier, doesn't matter. And at least a 600 denier, 250-gram blanket is enough for, at least in Reno, Nevada. And you can mix and match and go from fall to winter back into spring, because spring is kind of the same thing. You know, you start to come out of winter time, and then it starts to get warmer during the day, and you know, it helps to have like a lighter blanket that you can switch from your heavier blanket to a lighter blanket during the day, because springtime can still be cold and chilly during the day. So it helps to have, you know, an in-between. So this is what I found works for me here. Just the different combinations. You can put them together for different types of weather. You know, now it's like when you're going from springtime into summer too, sometimes it's like too cold or too warm to have 100-gram on. You know, then you might want just like a sheet during the day, you know, because we get, or if it's raining, you know, it's like you get rain in the springtime or summertime and the temperature is really not that warm, then you can use just a sheet. So all kinds of ways you can put your blankets and sheets together to keep your horse warm. And yeah, okay. So Anybody want to say anything? You want to say hi? There's one person. 2 people. Somebody say hi. Oh, and I want to show you guys this. I don't remember if I showed you this in a live video or not, but it's probably backwards, but I love horse kisses. This is from a thumbnail that I made in a video like a few videos ago. It's me and my Appy. And yeah, so I had this made. And if you're interested in getting one too, I'll post the link down below. It turned out really cute. So, okay, I'm waiting for somebody to say something. Anybody? Okay, well, I'm going to end this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.